You know how some nights, the silence feels heavier than usual? That's what it was like at 3 a.m. that morning. No cars on the street, no wind rattling the windows. It's just that low, constant hum of the fridge in the kitchen, and my own breathing. The kind of quiet that makes you hear your heartbeat in your ears. I remember my eyes flickering open without knowing why. For a second, I thought maybe it was a dream that woke me. But then I heard it, a faint vibration, like a phone buzzing on a hard surface. Not once, but twice, coming from the other room. I almost ignored it. I mean, people get messages at all hours, right? But then I reached over instinctively, and her side of the bed was empty. Not just empty cold, like she'd been gone for a while. I propped myself up, blinking at the soft glow spilling in from the hallway. God. Left the living room light on. Weird. I called out her name, soft enough not to startle her. But nothing. That's when I heard the faint rustle. Paper? A bag? Something being zipped up? I couldn't quite place it. My brain was still foggy, so I told myself, maybe she's just having trouble sleeping. Maybe she's paying bills or looking for something. But part of me knew that's not what it was. I sat there for a moment, debating whether to get up or just let it be. And here's the thing. We'd been married long enough that nights like this shouldn't feel strange. Something about the way the light bled into the dark hallway made my stomach feel tight. Finally, I swung my legs over the bed. The carpet was cold under my feet. As I stood, I caught a glimpse in the hallway mirror. Me, hair messy, eyes still half shut, walking toward the unknown like some cliché scene from a movie. That light from the living room stretched down the hall, in a long, thin strip. It almost looked like it was pulling me toward it. I took a slow breath and stepped forward. I don't remember falling back asleep. One moment I was standing in the hallway, staring toward that sliver of light. In the next, it was morning. The first thing I noticed wasn't the sunlight, it was the absence. Her side of the bed was still empty. The sheets were wrinkled, pillow untouched. For a second, I thought maybe she'd just gotten up early. But the apartment felt hollow. No sound of the shower running, no hairdryer. No faint hum of her singing to herself in the kitchen like she sometimes did. Just nothing. I dragged myself out of bed, threw on a shirt, and wandered into the kitchen. I hit the coffee maker out of habit, the familiar click and hiss filling the silence. The smell of brewing coffee, normally comforting, just made the emptiness feel louder. I picked up my phone. No missed calls. No texts. That's when it happened. A little notification banner slid down from the top of my screen. I almost swiped it away without thinking, but then I saw the words, $2,480. Airline purchase international. I froze. My thumb hovered over the screen like it had forgotten how to move. I tapped the notification, the coffee maker. Still hissing behind me? There it was, plain as day. Not just any ticket, a direct flight. Destination, Europe. I actually laughed, one of those short, disbelieving laughs you let out when your brain can't quite catch up. No, that can't be right, she wouldn't, but there it was. My debit card. Her name on the passenger line. And my stomach sank in a way I can't fully describe, like the floor dropped out from under me. But I was still standing. I set the phone down slowly, almost afraid to touch it, as if the screen itself might confirm what my mind refused to. It's strange how your mind works when the truth starts to slip through the cracks. One second you're staring at a bank notification, and the next, your brain starts rolling back the film, rewinding moments you thought were harmless. Until now, I remembered those times she'd avoid looking at me during conversations. Not in a shy, playful way, but in that distracted half-their way. Like she was waiting for something else. Her phone was always the something else. It started, subtle, tilting the screen away when I walked past. Then came the late-night calls she brushed off as work stuff. She worked in marketing. Sure. But I didn't know marketing required hushed voices at midnight. There were dinners, too. I'd cook, we'd sit, and her phone would light up halfway through the meal. I'd see her glance at it, a quick, almost nervous flick of her eyes. And then she'd set it face down on the table like it didn't matter. She never answered in front of me. Back then, I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking. And maybe I wanted to believe that, because believing otherwise meant admitting the person I shared my life with was slowly stepping out of it. But now, sitting there in the kitchen with coffee I hadn't touched, I felt this sharp tug-of-war inside me. Half of me was angry, furious that she could look me in the eye, kiss me goodnight, and still be planning something like this behind my back. The other half was embarrassed that I didn't see it sooner. That I let myself believe in her excuses because it was easier than facing what they might mean. The sound of the coffee maker clicking off snapped me back to the present. The apartment felt even quieter now, like it was holding its breath along. With me, I leaned back in my chair, eyes closed, letting those little moments replay in my head, each one now a piece of a puzzle I never wanted to solve, digging for the truth I didn't plan to turn into some kind of amateur detective that morning, but once you see something like that, a $2,480 ticket to a continent you didn't even know your wife was thinking about, you can't just go about your day. I opened my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard, pulse tapping against my ribs. First stop, my online banking. The numbers didn't look right. My stomach tightened as I scrolled. More charges, not just the airline ticket, 2 separate hotel reservations, a boutique clothing store, and a restaurant in the same city her ticket was booked to. I could almost feel the heat creeping up my neck as I clicked each transaction. Dates, times, amounts. She'd been planning this for at least a week. How long had she been? I grabbed my phone and dialed the airline's customer service, my voice steady but low. I told them I was confirming a booking for my wife. They didn't ask questions. Within minutes, I had her full itinerary. Flight tomorrow. Nan-refundable. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen. I could have confronted her right then, demanded an explanation. It's unleashed every bit of the anger that was boiling in my chest, but something in me didn't want to give her the satisfaction. No, I wasn't going to be the blindsided husband she got to walk away from. If she wanted to leave like this, she wasn't going to get the story she thought she would. I started weighing my options, my mind working faster than my emotions could keep up. Part of me wanted to sit back, wait, and greet her at the door with every receipt in hand. Another part wanted to take the next step, the kind you don't come back from. The cursor blinked at me on the search bar, almost like it was waiting for me to decide who I wanted to be in this story. It's funny. The mind doesn't just see betrayal in the present. It drags the past into it too. Once I had her itinerary in front of me, the question that kept circling in my head wasn't, what is she doing? It was, how long has she been doing this? I leaned back in my chair, and my eyes landed on a photo frame on the shelf. Our wedding day. She's looking at me, smiling like she's seeing her future, and I'm looking back at her thinking, hey, this is it. This is my person. That's the thing about trust. It's not a switch you turn on. It's something you build one tiny moment at a time. And when it's gone, it's not just one moment that shatters. It's all of them. I remembered our early years, the way we used to plan trips together, sitting side by side on the couch with laptops open, laughing at ridiculous hotel photos. We'd argue over itineraries, but it was always a good kind of arguing, the kind you can't fake, if you're not dreaming the same dream. Lately, though, it wasn't like that. She'd been distant in ways I didn't want to admit. Money had started to vanish from our account in small amounts. Work conference here, an unexpected expense there. I believed her. Maybe I wanted to. Looking at that airline booking, I realized she didn't just wake up one morning and decide to run. She'd been setting the stage for weeks, maybe months. And here's the part that hit the hardest. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the quiet, deliberate way she was erasing me from her plans. Did she ever really love me? Or was I just convenient? Debit card she could swipe until she found something better? The photo frame caught the light from the window, and for a second, I almost put it face down. But I didn't. I left it standing there. Because I wanted to remember what I thought was real and how wrong I'd been. The apartment felt different now. Colder. Even the walls seemed to be holding their distance. Heartbreak has a strange way of sharpening your focus. By the time the afternoon sun slid across the floor, The ache in my chest had started turning into something else, something harder, colder. If she wanted to leave me like a ghost in my own life, fine. But she wasn't walking away with my money. I opened her itinerary again, studying it like a chessboard. Departure. Tomorrow, early morning. Connection through New York, then straight to her European destination. Hotel check-in, scheduled 2 hours after she landed. I could have canceled the ticket right then, but that felt too merciful. Instead, I called my bank. I told them there was unauthorized activity on my account, and every single transaction tied to her trip needed to be flagged: airline ticket, hotels, restaurants, clothing, all of it. They froze the card immediately. Then, I booked my own flight, same city. But I'd arrived before her. As I typed in my information, my mind was weirdly calm. No shaking hands. No second guessing. Just precision. She'd made her move. Now, I was making mine. The plan came together faster than I expected. I'd land, check into a modest hotel across from hers, and wait. Let her think she'd slipped away clean. Let her step into the life she'd been building without me only. To find me standing in the middle of it, I packed light. Just enough for a few days. Passport, clothes, laptop. I tossed in a book, though I doubted I'd be reading much. The zipper's rasp as I closed the suitcase felt final. Sitting there with my coffee going cold, I realized this too won her back. I wasn't doing it for answers either. I was doing it because sometimes the only way to close a chapter is to write the ending yourself. The air in Europe felt different the moment I stepped off the plane. Cooler, sharper. Like it carried a secret it couldn't wait to tell me. I didn't go straight to the hotel. I walked the streets first, blending into the hum of the city. Cobblestones underfoot. Snippets of conversations in a language I didn't understand. The smell of espresso drifting from cafe doors. All of it a blur. Background noise to the single thought in my head. She has no idea I'm here. By the time I reached the luxury hotel from her itinerary, I'd already rehearsed the moment in my mind a dozen times. But nothing quite prepared me for seeing her. She was in the lobby, laughing. Not just smiling, laughing. That full-bodied kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in months, and she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her, holding a coffee cup, leaning in like they'd known each other forever. For a second, I just watched. Not out of hesitation, but to let the reality sink in. I wanted to see her as she was when she thought I wasn't looking. Then I started walking. Slow, steady steps across the marble floor. She turned, probably just catching movement out of the corner of her eye, and then her whole expression shifted. The smile dropped. Her eyes went wide, like she'd seen a ghost. The man beside her looked from her to me, confused. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cause a scene. I just stopped. A few feet away and said, "Enjoying your trip?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She glanced toward the front desk, toward the exit. Anywhere but my face. And right on cue, the hotel manager walked over, holding a clipboard. He spoke to her in polite, careful tones. Something about her payment not going through. At him, then at me. That's when it hit her. I'd cut her off. She started fumbling in her bag, pulling out cards, trying to save face. The man beside her stepped back, clearly realizing he'd wandered into something messy. I didn't wait for her to explain. Didn't need to hear whatever version of the truth she was about to spin. I just turned, walked out through the glass doors, and let them close behind me with a soft hiss. The city air outside felt lighter. Then the air in that lobby? I didn't look back as I walked away from the hotel. Not once. The sound of the glass doors closing behind me felt like a lock turning. Not on her, but on that whole chapter of my life. I could imagine her inside, scrambling. Cards declining one after the other, the man beside her slowly realizing. He wasn't part of some romantic getaway, but an audience to her unraveling. She'd left thinking she was stepping into freedom, but really, she'd bought herself a cage. The streets were busy, but I walked slowly. The world seemed sharper somehow, the colors deeper, the air cooler on my skin. Strange how clarity can feel almost physical. Still my mind wandered. Kept flashing back to moments that used to mean everything. The first trip we ever took together, holding hands in an airport, making stupid inside jokes. The night we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about nothing and everything, even the little routines. Her curling up on the couch with a blanket, my arm draped around her, shoulders now. Each memory carried a bitter edge, like a photograph burned at the corners. Love turned into evidence. I made my way to my own modest hotel, grabbed my bag, and headed for the airport. No sightseeing, no lingering. I was ready to go home. As the plane took off, I pressed my forehead against the window. The city spread. Out below, glittering under the night sky, slowly shrinking until it was just a blur of lights. I thought about what she might be doing at that exact moment, maybe still arguing with the front desk, maybe making frantic calls she knew I'd never answer. For the first time in days, I felt in control. Coming home felt strange. The apartment was exactly as I'd left it, shoes by the door, mail stacked on the counter. The faint smell of coffee, still lingering from that morning before everything cracked open. But it wasn't the same. The silence was different now, not heavy or tense like it had been in those last weeks with her. It was lighter, cleaner, almost like the air could finally breathe. Again, without all the weight between us pressing down on it, I set my suitcase by the door and just stood there for a moment, letting it sink in that I'd come back alone. And that was a good thing. The next day, I started going through our stuff. Her things were still scattered around the place, books on the coffee table, clothes in the closet, a few framed photos on the shelves. Every item I picked up came with a memory, some sweet, some sharp. But instead of holding on to them, I found myself dropping most into a big cardboard donation box. Her favorite sweater? Gone. That kitschy mug she bought on our last trip together? Gone. The picture frame from our anniversary? I didn't even hesitate. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about reclaiming the space, making it mine again. As the box filled, the shelves grew emptier. Weirdly, the emptier they got, the lighter I felt. I thought a lot about trust that day. How it's not just something you give, it's something you guard. How being vulnerable is a risk, and sometimes, yeah, you get burned. But that doesn't mean you stop taking the risk, because here's the thing. Walking away isn't weakness. It's proof you know your worth. By late afternoon, sunlight was streaming through the window, catching the dust in the air, spilling across half-empty shelves. For the first time in a long time, I sat down, leaned back, just let the quiet be quiet. It's strange how quickly life starts to move again. Once you let go of the weight you've been carrying, in the days after I got back, I slipped into new routines without even meaning to. Mornings with coffee by the window instead of rushing around. Evening walks through the neighborhood. Cooking for one and realizing it was enough, little things started feeling bigger. The sound of rain on the roof, a good book before bed, the smell of fresh laundry. I'd always noticed them, but now they felt louder, more vivid. She tried to contact me a few times. Unknown numbers, a couple of emails. I didn't read past the subject line. I didn't need to. Whatever she wanted to say wasn't for me anymore. It was for the version of me that still cared.
Ow.
And he didn't live here anymore. I caught myself thinking, more than once, about the irony of it all. She'd flown halfway across the world, chasing something, maybe love, maybe excitement, maybe just escape. And she came back with nothing. That's when it hit me. The truth I wish I'd seen sooner. You can steal money, but you can't steal peace. And my peace. I wasn't giving it away again. One afternoon I was walking through the city, sun warm on my back, the crowd flowing around me like a river. No one knew my story. No one knew what I'd left behind. And for the first time, I didn't feel the need to tell anyone. I just kept walking, letting the noise and motion swallow me up, heading toward whatever came next.